But his production actually speaks to it. When before people thought that you can rattle him, which I never thought was accurate. But last week when they played against the San Francisco 49ers, they had the greatest defense the Giants had seen all season. They put him on the ground 20 times. They sacked him 6 times. His uniform was completely dirty. He looked a mess. He did not turn that ball over at all. No interceptions, no fumbles, nothing. And that's going to speak volumes for how I see this game going, because clearly New England's defense isn't as good as San Francisco's defense is. So we're not going to have a situation where we have to worry about that. I am confident in the fact that the Giants front four will get to Tom Brady. They've done it before. They did it in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, and they did it earlier this season when the Giants played against New England earlier this season. I believe they played in Foxborough on November 6th, and the Giants won that game 24-20. Now, I don't think that you can walk into this game thinking because you beat them 2 straight times that you're going to have a laugher in the Super Bowl. I think that kind of overconfidence will get you in some trouble. You do need to treat this, as a one-game playoff, because that's exactly what it is. Winner take all. You win this game, you win the Super Bowl trophy. And I am somewhat concerned about the overconfidence that some of the Giants fans have. I don't see it so much in the players. I've actually heard some players, Antrell Roll in particular, talking about how nobody thinks the Giants will win, which I think he's crazy for that, because if you look at a lot of what the pundits are saying, a lot of the pundits see the Giants winning this game. So, it's a lot, to consider. I know that I'm excited. I'm probably going to be watching this game amongst some family. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, Carl.
Well, while we're talking about football, for our third caller, we have 2 tickets to the Richmond Elite versus Portsmouth Cavaliers this Saturday, February 4th. 2 tickets to see them play at Highland Springs High School at 6 o'clock p.m. So please be the third caller at 804-726-3430, and we'll give away 2 tickets to the Richmond Elite versus Portsmouth Cavaliers this Saturday, February 4th at Highland Springs on behalf of Global Scale Radio.
Get in on that, because that's fun. If you've ever been to one of those games, you don't know who these guys are, but they play like they're playing in the Super Bowl. Of course, they're going to be playing. That game is the day before the Super Bowl. It's this Saturday, the 4th at Highland Springs High School here in Richmond at 6 p.m. You want to see actually football. It's actually a basketball game. If you want to see, if you want to
Carlton
see,
Banks.
Yeah, really.
Why would it be me? What did I do?
If you want to see them really get it in, if you want to see these guys playing, like their livelihood is on the line, you need to get in on that. So for the third caller, call us up and you can get these tickets. We'll make sure that you get them before the game comes up on this Saturday. One of the storylines that we can talk a little bit about with the game being played, the Super Bowl that is being played in Indianapolis, is the man that helped to have that stadium built in Indianapolis. We all know that the Indianapolis Colts were, a marginal team at best back in the late 90s. I believe Peyton got drafted in 98 or something. And, of course, that team was a marginal team at best prior to that. He's had a great career. Some would say that he's one of the best ever. I personally would never go that far. But
wow.
No, I'm not seeing it because the guy folds under pressure. He's a great stats guy. He's a great stats guy. He's a great. Let me do this. Yeah, and I'm always on record as
Bill Schrader, right?
I'm always on record of trying to rile up my co-host here, and so I'm gonna do that right here.
Bill Schrader, right?
Let me do this. I'm gonna make a baseball reference because anybody that knows me knows that that's close to my heart. So you got 2 players. One guy has 54 home runs, 139 RBIs, bats .320 in the regular season, Big Rube. And I'm going to give you this because I know you probably know who that player is.
Yeah.
You got another guy that bats .310. He might get you 11 home runs and 68 RBIs in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the playoffs come, Mr. 54 home runs might bat .220 in the playoffs, maybe have 1 home run, 2 RBIs, whereas Mr. 11 home runs is probably going to bat .320, no home runs, and 10 RBIs. Which guy would you rather have? Now, I put it to you that way because I am putting those 2 baseball players, and I'm looking at them like I look at Peyton and Eli. So, those 2 players are who, Big Road? He played for the New York Yankees. We're talking about Alex Rodriguez.
A-Rod.
And we're talking about
Derek
Jeter.
Yeah, whatever.
So if you had a
That's what I
choice,
figured you were talking about.
if you had a choice, knowing what you know about the Yankees and the Yankees over the last 8 years since A-Rod got there,
There's no choice. You take Mr. 3000.
and Mr. 3000 for the people who don't know
It's Derek Jeter.
is Derek Jeter.
That's
Okay.
my boy Jeter.
Okay. Now, using that analogy, we know that Peyton is a stat monster.
I don't feel you can use that analogy in this situation
Why?
because I feel like they have very different teams. They have very different makeups, and it would be completely different if they were on equal footing. I don't feel that both organizations are on equal footing. I feel that the Giants are on much stronger foundation than the Colts have ever been, because I don't care when Peyton won his Super Bowl. Let's just be real. They showed it this year. There's no defense in Indianapolis.
Yeah, but you can say that, and I respect your position on it. I disagree with it simply because if you look at the Indianapolis Colts over the last 12, 13 years that Peyton was there, they were a perennial winner every single year. You take him off, and we see what happens. They go 2-14.
But it's because they're.
But the point,
Yeah.
but the point I'm making is, if you look at the New York Giants and you take Eli Manning out and you leave David Carr to run that team, you're probably looking at a similar situation.
I disagree.
Eli Manning is largely the reason why the Giants are where they are, because you got a receiving core, with the exception of Hakeem Nicks, you got a receiving core that nobody even knew who these guys were
I knew
coming into the season, unless you were a fan of the sport and a fan of the team. You didn't know who they were. And similarly with the Indianapolis Colts.
But the reason why I disagree is because I feel like that the Giants have a much stronger team as a whole than Indianapolis does. Like you said, you take both Paytons away. Indianapolis is 2-14. The Giants aren't 2-14. The Giants, honestly, are probably 8-8, maybe 9-7. I think they still may possibly win a division this year because our division was terrible. The NFC East was terrible.
Well, you saw what happened with that when you look at around the division, and of the 4 teams in that division, only one team had a quarterback who you would say isn't one of the most talented guys on the offense, and that would be the Redskins.
Correct.
So, assuming the Eagles played like they were supposed to play, they would have had a better season. Assuming that Dallas had a couple of balls fall in their direction,
Right.
you could argue that they would have won the division.
But I also feel the same way about the Giants.
But where I was going with that is, you see what happened in Washington because they didn't have a viable quarterback. So if you take your viable quarterback off your team, let me do this. Let's look around the team. Let's look around the league. You look around the league, and you pick out the good quarterbacks. We don't have to rank them, but let's just pick out the good quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Eli Manning, guys like that. You assume are pretty good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Then you look at teams that don't have great quarterbacks. Where are they? If you got a great quarterback, you can pretty much be guaranteed to have a decent
Great
season.
or good?
Good to great versus good to not to bad.
Okay, Carlton Banks will like this one. I think Cam Newton is good. I feel like he does not have the weapons around him to make him great.
Right.
Yeah, but you saw, and we won't talk so much about the Pro Bowl because
it's terrible.
Because it's terrible. But if you watch the game, if you really paid attention to the game, Cam Newton was the only guy in the game that looked like he didn't know what he was doing. He was the only one. Everybody else out there had a career game. The score was 59-41. Everybody else did great. Cam Newton struggled. You know why? Because it's not necessarily what goes on with your legs and your shoulder, but what goes on above your shoulders.
Well, yeah, but you have to understand, for the interest of full disclosure, they changed the whole playbook for Cam Newton. The offensive system Cam Newton plays at Carolina is not your normal NFL offensive system. It's more of a mix between college and NFL. And that's why it works for him. If you sit there and you have to give him, hey, you're gonna run the power I, he's gonna look at you with deer in the headlights. Because he doesn't know what the power is. He never read it.
See, you're making my point. You're making my point. Physical prowess on the football field doesn't necessarily make you a great quarterback, because I think what it is, most of it is between your ears, man. It's not always. I mean, look at somebody like Peyton Manning. Nobody is going to say that he is a physical specimen with regards to being able to get out of, tackles and things of that.
Yeah, he doesn't run for nobody.
And he doesn't run. The same with Eli Manning. And I just use them because they're the first two that came to my mind. Same with Tom Brady. He's not really that physical, but they're smart guys. If you look at the test, I can't think of the name of
the Wonderlic.
The Wonderlic test. The guys that score the highest, it's not an accident. It's just not. The guys that score the lowest.
Sam Bradford scored pretty high.
Well, Sam Bradford went to an awful team with a marginal coach in St. Louis, and we saw what happened to that coach. He got fired, and a lot of times these guys get drafted and they're highly touted coming out, and they get to the NFL and it's a new ball game. Matt Leinart, Sam Bradford, you can Ryan Leaf. I mean, you can pick
Achilles Smith.
What's the boy in Oakland?
Jamarcus
Russell.
Yeah, a lot of these guys come into the league and they flame out. So, but then a lot of it has to do what goes on between the ears. It's not just your physicality. And you saw what happened with Michael Vick when he actually studied, and he did his studying, and he added that to his physical prowess. Yeah. We saw he had the best season of his career coming out of prison.
True that.
So, I don't know. I mean, and I know we said that
coming from behind bars.
I know we said that we wasn't going to talk a whole lot about the Pro Bowl, and we're not. We're going to leave it. We're going to leave it right there. We're going to go around the room real quick. I want to get a winner, and I want to get a score. We're going to start with Carlton.
I don't really want to see either team win personally. I want to tie.
Hater.
No, it's not a hate. I just don't really care for either one of the teams. If anything, I'm gonna keep it home. I'm gonna keep it local. Get the Giants.
You got a score for me?
No. It'll be over the 55. I really think it'll be over the 55.
Carlton sees a high scoring game. He sees the Giants. Big Rube?
Yo, I'm a hater. Patriots 28-24.
Okay. Well, I like that score that you just gave, 28-24. I think the Giants potentially win by as much as a touchdown. I just think they're the better team. I think they're the hotter team. Of course, we know that the Patriots came in winning 10 games in a row, versus a team that comes in winning 5 games in a row. It's hard to say that a team winning 5 versus 10 is hotter, but I think the buzz is around the Giants. I think they're hungrier. But the Patriots have a lot to play as well. They're playing for history, not just the Super Bowl.
Patriots have something to prove.
They got something to prove. They got to prove that they can beat that Tom Brady's team can beat Eli Manning's team. Tom Brady and Belichick have a chance to go in history as the only team, as one of the only tandems to win for. Of course, they've already been to 5, so they got a lot of history on their shoulders. Eli Manning had a quote this week that he didn't care who they played. He was just excited to be there. And kind of, I'm going to pick on my quarterback a little bit. For those people who like to pick on him, kind of give him the Opie Cunningham, comment because he kind of looks, a little bit dopey. He said, sometimes when you have a bad game, you just want to get a hug from your mom and your dad. I thought that was kind of a bizarre comment, but it kind of goes with the howdy doody, happy go lucky guy type of deal. So we'll see. I see it going high scoring game, 28-24. I don't see the 55 points that Carlton saw, but we'll see. That's it. We're gonna leave it there. 2-1 Giants. Big Rube, Marcus JC the Giants, and Carlton Banks and Marcus JC the Giants. Big Rube sees the Patriots. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into our next segment, kind of the social fun segment. Carlton Banks wants to know what you think about it. Marcus J, Big Rube, Carlton Banks. We'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.